you know, as long as they eventually go vegan, it's okay. You just have to be compassionate and be nice to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Take your time.
Yeah.
I'd rather be passionate
than passive. Hey guys, welcome back to The Vegan View. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about nice vegans versus angry vegans. Oh boy, do we have a lot to say on this topic. So obviously there is a fine line between being the type of vegan that's pushy and you're too aggressive and you're pushing your views on people. And then there's the vegans who are like, you know, kind of just keep to themselves, and you know, maybe they'll be sitting like at a meal, for example, and everyone is like eating meat and they're the only ones eating vegan and everyone's talking shit about veganism and they're just sitting there not saying anything. So there's those two different types of vegans.
I find it interesting that you say that, because I do think that whenever I meet somebody that's not vegan for the first time, they're immediately, I can kind of see the wheels turning, trying to place me in one of those categories. Is she a pushy vegan? Is she angry? Or is she a nice vegan? Is she cool? And I don't think it's as black and white as people might think it is. I think even in the vegan community, sometimes we want to make it so black and white. Oh, that's an angry vegan. Oh, that's a nice vegan. There's a lot of room in the middle to be, you know, in between. And maybe in certain situations you are a little more vocal about how you feel, and maybe sometimes you're a little more passive. Like we've talked about it in the past. Like sometimes we just want to be at a party and not talk about being vegan, and we just want to chill. And then sometimes if you're going to try to challenge me on something and I'm feeling like I am about to own you in a conversation, like I will fight back.
So facts, baby.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yesterday I was at a barbecue and this girl sitting next to me, I didn't know her. We were all at a park. We're sitting at the bench, and I noticed that her like hot dog looked a little. I was like, that doesn't look like a real like link. And I heard one of her friends like kind of making fun of her, like, oh, that veggie dog. And then one of their friends was like, oh, are you vegan? And she's like, I'm vegetarian. Like 30 minutes later, another guy like is like, oh, that veggie dog, get it out of my sight. It looks so gross. And I just like turned to him. I was like, actually, it's delicious. I didn't even eat it, but I know that it's vegan. Like I could tell. Good, yeah, I knew it was good. So I turned to him. I was like, actually, it's delicious. And he's like, oh, are you vegan? I was like, yeah, actually. And he was like, oh, how long you been vegan? I was like, 8 years. And he's like, oh, I thought you were going to say like, you know, you just did it, you know, the last year or so. But he was ready to like talk smack thinking like, oh, you're a new vegan. But it's like, no, baby, throw some respect to my name. I've been vegan for 8 years. There's nothing you could say to me to come for me. But it's just so funny that someone who's not vegan was so ready to attack me and by asking me, how long you been vegan? Yeah. Like, and it doesn't even matter how long you've been vegan. Some people try to like, what is it called? Like, not validate your...
Yeah, invalidate
your
just your experiences, your feelings.
Whether it's been 8 years or 8 months. But I told him, I was like, yeah, I've been in this before it was cool, so...
But even if you've only been vegan for a month, what difference does it make? Like, what are you eating?
The fact that he has an opinion on you without even having a conversation with you first, just based off of the fact that you don't want to eat meat, that tells you everything right there. And that's just part of like what vegans go through. Like we did a whole episode on being the only vegan in the room and like how hard it is sometimes when you're in a social setting and people are automatically making assumptions about you. They're automatically coming for your beliefs. It's exhausting. And so I don't think it's fair to say you don't have a right to be angry, because everybody's feelings are valid. And if somebody feels angry because they've been, you know, wrongfully attacked at the park because they want to eat a veggie dog, then they have every right to be upset about that.
And you know what's funny? If you had snapped back at him after he was disrespecting that girl like that, you would be an angry vegan.
Yeah, but
even though he's disrespecting
and said,
her.
It's actually delicious.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, are you vegan too? I'm like, yeah, I wasn't even eating the veggie dog. But I took that as an opportunity to be like, actually, it's good. And like, she's not eating a dead animal. Like, why shame someone for not eating meat? I just don't get it.
Also, can we talk about the alternative to a veggie dog and a real hot dog? What's in that? Can we talk about that? Can we
know?
list those ingredients?
Yeah.
And I used to love hot dogs, so I was
And the
a
thing
terrible
is, the
offender.
veggie dogs, those
Smart
veggie
dogs are
dogs,
so delicious.
they're
So good.
delicious. They
Yeah,
taste
they
very
really are
similar to
good.
like, the nasty real.
Yeah,
whatever
they
they are.
totally satisfy that craving.
So yeah, I think that's there, you could find there's moments where you can be like, you know,
You don't have to be put into one box. You don't have to be this, what people consider to be an angry vegan or what people consider to be a nice vegan. It just depends on the circumstance, depends on, the experience that you're living right at that moment. And you don't have to subscribe to either narrative. It's, it's how do you want to talk about something? Who's asking you? It all depends. Some people come at you, in good faith, vegans included. Some people ask you questions in good faith and other people are bad actors. And, how are you going to approach that? I mean, same way like anyone would approach someone who's disrespecting them.
Yeah.
I don't think we should put labels on vegans because of how they respond to people's bullying. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's like, it's different every time. I've learned now from being vegan for 6 years that I also have to protect my happiness and my mental health. And sometimes that means not responding to your ignorance. Sometimes I may just do my thing. And if you want to be respectful and ask me about it, sure, we can have a conversation.
Right,
But those
exactly.
moments are few and far between.
Yeah, you have to protect your mental health. And if someone, like if you're at a party and someone like automatically comes and mocks you, like I reserve the right to say, haha, that's funny, and just walk away. I don't have to keep engaging with you.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you have the mental capacity to understand where I'm coming from.
Exactly. That's the part. Like a lot of these people can be ignorant and not in a negative way, but just like they just don't know or understand. And it's like, I have too much information. I know too much. I've already made my decision and I know that this is the right decision for me. So there's nothing a stranger or even someone I know can say to like sway me or try to, battle that.
We've sort of talked about it before, how, if you genuinely want to know and not knowing is perfectly okay. I feel like there's a lot of information now, but not everybody has access to it. If you don't have the information and you're approaching someone, whether it be me or any vegan person, and saying, hey, I want to know more about this, that's curious, like what's happening to the animals, then we can have a conversation. But I feel like you are able to recognize where they're coming from, and if they're just trying to make, you seem like a fool by asking you like intimidating questions or trying to mock you with what they hope you say, if that makes sense.
Or have you guys ever dealt with this where it's like one of your friends or something, like they're eating some meat or something in front of you and then they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, first of all, don't say sorry to me. Yeah. Apologize to yourself and apologize to the animals. And you know what I mean? But it's like, and then like, or people, and I appreciate it sometimes, like my friends or people like trying to be considerate, like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, does this bother you? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. But they kind of expect you to be like, oh my God, you're eating that. And I just be chilling. I'm like, no, it doesn't bother me. Like, do you? Because I'm not a judge. I'm not going to,
And like sometimes it does bother you, but it's also like, don't apologize to me because I'm not the person you're like directly hurting.
Right.
Maybe I'm uncomfortable because I don't want to smell it and I don't want to look at it, but the being that's actually affected is the one that's on your plate that used to be living, had a family, and now is your dinner. Like,
or are they subconscious? Is it their subconscious apologizing because they're in
think
front
so.
of someone and they kind of know? Because some people kind of know that, that's,
That's the thing. I think that for me, like, I'm just honest. I don't know. Maybe I'm blunt, but at the end of the day, everything that I'm saying is just fact. And if I'm not presenting it to you on a plate, softly speaking to you, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is just the truth. These are just facts.
And that's
like,
your approach, and that's who you are. And
animals,
you have to honor that.
Exactly. That's just who I am as a person. Like, I don't nicely tell you that animals are being murdered and tortured every single day, and you should take your time on making the decision to go vegan. So I guess, maybe I fall a little bit more into that, like, category of being more, like, aggressive about being vegan. But I don't know.
But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone has a right to tell anyone else what their form of activism is. Like, Melina, stop being angry. Or Melina, be a little angrier. Why are you so nice? Like, we don't get to decide what kind of vegan someone else is. And I think that's something that happens a lot within the vegan community is someone will say, oh my God, she's such an angry vegan.
You don't get to tell me how passionate I can or cannot be.
I mean, for me, I've been vegan for 10 years. So obviously I'm not usually the one to initiate the conversation anymore these days. I still have people, like, for example, like doing the show now, I have a lot of people who follow me and they bring it up and I'm always like, ugh. And then it starts this thing. But if someone is like saying something that I know is ignorant and isn't true, like, I just very matter of fact tell you the truth. about what is. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you are eating a dead body.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to you in a nice, kind way. I'm just presenting it literally. And people don't like hearing things literally, which is where I
Sounds
think
like a personal problem.
yeah.
But that's where it's like you said, we don't get to tell people how to be an activist. We don't get to tell people how they should feel about something, how they should react to something. Your feelings are your own, and nobody gets to invalidate those. Nobody gets to tell you how you should feel about something, and that is something I think we need to remember when it comes to other people as well. Like, you may not agree with somebody, but you can respect that that is their feeling and validate that that is their feeling, because it is, and you can't change that. Everybody's form of activism is important. I know that some people respond so much better to a more passionate approach, whereas other people may respond better to the facts. They want a more, matter of fact, these are the facts. And then some people may want a more like coddling, like lovey-dovey approach. And there are so many different types of vegans in this world doing that type of activism, and they're all important in their own way.
You know what's so interesting though that I've noticed is the only time that it's a problem, because this is just the way that I carry myself in life. This is how I speak on anything. I'm just kind of blunt and matter of fact about everything. And the only time that anyone takes it very personally is when it applies to veganism. And then it's like, then all of a sudden they're noticing the way that I'm speaking. And then all of a sudden the way that I'm speaking is
When
a problem.
this is you on
This
your
is just
everyday
who I
life.
am. This is just how I speak. Like, I don't coddle. Coddling is not my approach.
Yeah, I just lead by example. People don't know that I'm vegan usually unless they someone told them, or like the guy at the park and I made the comment about the veggie dog and he just assumed like, oh, are you vegan? So I just lead by example. I lead by my lifestyle, yummy foods, people in my life who aren't vegan, cooking for them, eating with them.
I mean, I think I'm a little bit of both. Like, I definitely sometimes you might not know until someone tells you, and then other times it's like on different platforms. Like, obviously this show, and like, on social media I'm a lot more vocal about it as well. I go where I feel comfortable, and sometimes that is when I'm in control of the conversation, when it's on my page.
Yeah.
So it's so crazy to me that people think that they can like go around and put vegans that are talking about veganism or their life and their feelings on it on their page, and they can be like, oh, you're an angry vegan, you're a nice vegan, you're an angry vegan.
It's my page. I'm gonna speak how I want.
And sometimes I'm angry, and sometimes I'm nice.
Yeah, I'm sure the person commenting that sometimes gets angry. Regardless of whether you're vegan or not, I can assure you that like you get angry about things, and then you get less angry about other things, and going back to what Hannah was saying, there's different lanes to activism, and I think, people respond well to different things. Some people respond to slaughterhouse videos, and that's what makes them go vegan, whereas others respond more to like environmental documentaries. And then some people will respond best to Joy's crab cake stories on Instagram. So it's all different, and it's all valid, and it's all important. And I don't think anyone especially in the vegan movement, should be telling people how to activism. I think it's, of course, if you're being disrespectful to someone or to a group of people, or doing something, that hurts another being, obviously you should reconsider your form of activism. But generally speaking, let people activism how they will activism. You might not like someone, showing you a slaughterhouse video, and that's okay. I mean, I don't particularly love it either, but at one point it did what it needed to do for me, and it made me go pescatarian. It got me that far, at least. So people will respond to it. So I think.
Yeah.
What about the vegans who are like, they're very compassionate towards animals and like animal rights and like vegan and everything, but then they treat humans like dirt and I mean,
I guess that kind of goes back to what I was saying. And as much as like that's unfortunate and that's sad, vegans are not monoliths. You will encounter
vegans humans
that are
vegans
terrible,
perfect and like
right.
loving
It's
and
just
caring and compassionate.
This
all
is
over.
Right. So just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're a great person, and just because you're not vegan doesn't mean you're a terrible person. I think we all know that. We've established that.
There is definitely problematic vegans that are spreading, information that I think is toxic. I don't agree with it. I don't understand how you can be vegan and not also care for human animals. They're included in that. I think it's one thing to be, a passionate vegan who has an angry approach, and it's another thing to be somebody who's overtly disrespecting cultures and, not
groups of people
not taking into account basic
How are you
human
standing
rights.
up for animals, but like basic human rights?
Yeah.
I also feel like I see a lot of women having a lot of opinions on women and how they express themselves. And I feel like there's a lot of internalized misogyny that especially millennials have instilled in us without realizing it, where we think that women have to express themselves in a soft way and in a kind way. And there's a certain way that we have to carry ourselves and speak. And I think that we kind of have to look within ourselves a little bit and realize, like, why do we feel the need to attack other women and how they express themselves? Because if it were a man saying this right now, would we be calling him angry and calling it a not safe space, or would we be saying that he's telling us facts and he's passionate and
inspirational.
and that's it, and inspirational?
That's
So
a great point, because you could argue that a lot of the like bigger male vegan influencers, I would say that they are more angry in their delivery, than they are gentle, yet they're never called angry vegans. They're never called aggressive, whereas a woman saying the same thing might be called aggressive or angry.
On the other side of that token, I think there's also how people in general perceive men to be, and the moment men are vegan, they think that the way they're living is invalid because men shouldn't be vegan.
Yeah.
Or like insert other
Compassion
stereotype
is
here.
sexy.
Compassion is very sexy.
sexy.
The sexiest.
Compassion is sexy.
compassion is strength.
Yeah.
There's nothing weak about a man
Yeah.
Who protects animals
and feeds his
innocent
body
beings.
from the earth.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. That's a man to me.
There's that one
Exactly.
quote, I'm pretty sure it's like a vegan quote, but it says something like, nothing tells you more about a man than how he treats those who can do nothing for them, or something like that.
The help
Yeah.
like the
Yeah. Obviously that applies to anyone,
yeah.
you know, anyone on the spectrum.
But like you said, the opposite end is a lot of vegan men get a lot of shit all the time.
Yeah.
And the irony in it being called weak when they're literally singled out, because there's a lot less of them at the end of the day. So if they're like at a job or something, they're gonna be attacked and they have to stand there and endure that. And it's and it's so ironic because all those men think they're the strong ones. They're ganging up on a man who's standing up and is like standing up for voiceless, innocent
to go
beings.
against society as a man.
Strong.
That is strong.
And
don't
sexy.
ever, if you're a vegan man, you know,
Don't let anyone tell you you're weak.
you're not.
You're not.
You are strong.
And I kinda
The easy route is to be, I'm gonna eat meat, and
need my
I'm gonna-
protein.
and I'm gonna work out, and I'm gonna go fishing. Like that's easy.
protein.
You're never gonna get shit as a man if you're like, I'm gonna go eat a steak after this. No one's gonna be like, oh god, Jared, you're gonna
Man
eat
who
steak.
eats his veggies.
Yeah.
We always look up to superheroes, whether it be Batman or Superman. You always look up to them for being strong and for protecting those who need protection. But suddenly, when it's a guy who wants to speak out for, you know, animals who don't speak the same language. I don't want to use the word voiceless now because I feel like that's problematic. They have voices, we just don't understand them.
It's become a tagline.
Okay, yeah. So whose language is not the same as ours, suddenly it's like, oh, you're weak. Are they? They're standing up to literally the majority of the population and saying, yes, I'm a guy. This doesn't fit your narrative, but it's important for me to protect them. And we can't look at that the same way that we would look at a fictional superhero who's protecting the earth from a falling rock out of the sky or whatever the hell those movies are about.
That's
Come on.
beautiful. So vegan men are the real world superheroes.
And women too.
women.
And they them.
women.
Yeah.
And they
all
them.
superheroes.
Everybody. All the vegans fighting against the meat eaters. Sorry.
Well, I think that just goes to show what we're talking about, that like whoever you are as a vegan, we put up with a lot of stuff. Not only is this something that we genuinely believe in every bone in our body, it's our lifestyle, it's our belief system, it's our ethics, but we have to deal with stuff from our family, from our friends, from strangers, from society, from doctors. I mean, we get it everywhere. And so we have every right to be not only angry, but like
Tired
and
of
over
it.
it. And sometimes you just don't want to be nice after a certain point. Like,
I mean, imagine just being, because let's, putting it straight, a lot of the time, majority of the time, it is a form of bullying. You're like, oh, really? Why are you doing that? Don't you think that's dumb? Like, but really the animals, like, well, insert excuse here, insert excuse here. It's it kind of torments you, and it is a form of bullying to a certain extent. So imagine having to deal with that all the time and going out to social settings and then that being what you do. Like, good for you if you can put a smile on your face all the time and never be angry at it. I mean, I get angry all the time, and I just choose to remove myself from the equation because I'm like, I'm just going to further disturb my inner peace. So I'll just go over there and have another shot of tequila.
I mean, that's how I cope with it.
Because it's not just you. It's not like they're picking on you. I mean, they are, but it's also like you have something to stand for. Like you are standing for the planet and the animals that inhabit it. Like you are actively striving for a future where they're going to be protected. So it's like not only an attack on you, but you also feel it because you're like, well, I'm just trying to do what I believe is right.
I'm trying to stop living beings from being hurt.
Yeah.
Why is that so wrong? Just like when you put it in the most basic terms, I feel like anyone would agree with you. Oh, I'm a living being. I don't want this living being to hurt or to suffer because it's not necessary for my livelihood.
Exactly.
But people look at those living beings as like our property, and like animals are here for us to eat. Like that's what some people believe. So you could say that to someone and they would be like, what? Like they're here to be food, like, you know?
Yeah.
Have those people ever watched the Slaughterhouse video?
No, they would never.
Exactly.
And even
So
if they
those
did,
people,
they would probably be like, oh. Like,
really?
Yeah, there's certain
I
people.
feel like the type of people who say that kind of stuff are the type of people who are like, I don't want to know, I don't want to know. And I'm like, why do you not want to know?
Like,
why don't
all
you
in
want to
the
watch
circle of
it?
life,
Like,
'cause, you know,
watch
lions-
it.
Why don't you want to know?
Yeah.
Lions out in Kenya, they have a bunch of slaughterhouses out there. They're just putting the gazelles and
Oh,
breeding the gazelles in the
yeah.
slaughterhouses. That's how
I've
it
seen
works,
the
right?
gazelle
Circle of
slaughterhouse.
life.
Circle of
I will
life,
say
right?
I'm so grateful, like, to be on this platform and to, like, be a part of the show, because I feel like I really get to express who I truly am as a vegan and, like, voice my concerns and my passion and everything that I don't normally get to do in my everyday life, because, you know, it gets exhausting trying to have those conversations, or maybe I don't really get the opportunity in real life all the time. But here on the show, like, I really get to be myself and, like, really, you know, be the passionate, like, person, honest, blunt person that I am. And, you know, so.
Yeah. And all that to say, like, I think, you know, on this show, obviously, we are expressing our feelings because this is our platform. But in real life, I would say we all practice attractivism for the most part, where we really just kind of are ourselves, and we're not like looking to have these conversations with people who aren't open to having these conversations.
Yeah.
We're not like, if you're eating a steak in front of us, we're not pointing the finger like, shame on you. Like, we're just living our vegan life, eating our vegan meal. And if you happen to ask us questions, we'll answer them honestly.
Right.
But
Honestly.
I think that's a very effective way, especially when you've been vegan for so long. It's like, it's at a certain point, you just want to just live your life.
Live really, like,
But there are push. I mean, it's always funny to me when people are like, "Oh, are you a pushy vegan?" Like, "Oh, you're not a pushy vegan." I've really yet to meet one of those in real life.
Are you a pushy humanitarian? Do you care so much about humans that you push other people to try to get them to care about other humans too? Oh, I met a humanitarian once that was so pushy that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to care about humans now because of that Rachel girl. I
And there
care
you
so
have
much
it.
about humans.
I mean, what did
is
it for
that?
me, obviously, was the Slaughterhouse videos. Like, watching something like that, like, yeah, I'm sorry that I can't have a nice conversation with you after watching that, and you're sitting here attacking me because I don't support that. You know, and every time, like you said, we lead by example. In all of my social settings, I'm not the one to start the conversation. But if I'm sitting here peacefully eating my vegan meal and you're like, are you vegan? Yeah, I'm vegan. And you're eating a burger and you're like, I could never be vegan. And I'm like, well, I could
Nobody
never
asked
eat
you
a
to.
corpse. You know what I
I
mean?
need to start using that, because it's like,
Yeah,
nobody
every
asked
time.
you,
And then they
nobody
get
asked.
defensive, and then it's just like it becomes this whole thing. And I'm like, why you attacked me? You asked me first. You started the conversation, and then you're mad at how I'm responding. This is who I am as a person.
Some people, like, some people just have a guilty conscience.
Exactly. And I know that. I know that it's a guilty conscience. I know that at the end of the day, you know that it's wrong and you're defensive, because most people will behave that way when they're defensive. I'm sorry, like, those images are scarred into my brain, and I'm here for the animals. It's purely ethical for me. I care about them. I want to be a voice for them, and I'm not going to be nice to you when I'm telling you what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Especially if
it's
you
just
come
not
at
my
it from,
approach.
you know, a point of disrespect, and you're
Yeah.
not actually curious
And honestly,
about
the
it.
only time I get into one of those conversations is when somebody's disrespecting me.
Right.
So that's it. I will never start the conversation.
It's like, you never ask somebody like, "Oh, tell me about your religion," and then they tell you about their religion, and then you're like, oh, I could never do that.
Oh,
and
I
then
could
they're
never
like,
not eat bacon.
and then they're like, okay, and then you're like, well, why are you trying to push it on me? Like it like that's just not how you interact with people. So why do you think you have a right to like talk to somebody about that when they're talking about
I do want to
their
bring up
lifestyle?
an important point, like especially when it comes to angry vegans versus nice vegans, and like everyone is on their different vegan journey. And like I do want to point out the fact that like when I first went vegan, like the first vegan meal I ever had, it was so delicious. I had a pasta and it was like an Alfredo that they made like from cauliflower or something. And then for dessert, I had cookies, and like that was the first vegan meal I had from a vegan restaurant. And I remember I ate the leftovers the next day, and it still was so fresh, and like I felt like the cookie, I could really taste the ingredients. So I went vegan because I didn't trust the food industry, but really I just enjoyed the taste more. It tasted more natural and more real to me, and I'm a huge foodie. So originally I went vegan for the taste of the food because I thought the food was much better. I didn't really even think about animals. I never was like an animal lover. Like I had a cat growing up, but like I was never like a big animal person. Honestly, I didn't start like caring about animals or like acknowledging animals until like probably 4 years ago. And so that wasn't a part of my vegan journey. And now like I love animals, and like now like I have all this compassion for animals, but originally that's not what it was for me. And I feel like you just got to meet people where they're at.
That just goes to show that every type of activism is important. It's important to have the vegan environmentalists who are talking about the environmental aspects, because that's going to hit home with certain people.
Right.
And then it's important to have the animal activists. That's going to hit home with certain people. There's the health aspect as well. Like that's also going to hit home. And then, you hope that the rest of the blanks get filled in. At least for me, it started with animals and health, and then I was like, oh, the environment as well, and I started to be more conscious of that. So you hope that the blanks get filled in, but even if they don't, and maybe somebody's only vegan for a certain amount of time, if they're just vegan for health and then they drop out, at least for that certain amount of time, they weren't eating animals and there weren't animals or animal products on their plates. It's something.
Yeah. Like I'm just now at the point where it's like, oh, environment. But it's like taken years because, what my focus has been, and, you learn more, as you go along in your journey. And some people are vegan for all the reasons,
Nice vegans have their place as well. I think, we've been defending the passion of veganism because I think we're all very passionate. We've been vegan for so long. But I also think that there is a time and a place for a nice approach.
I've also heard that some people feel comfortable having non-vegans talk to nice vegans, to help them go vegan, but you can't just assume that because they're not vegan, they're not going to respond to X amount or X type of vegan activism. Yeah. One time I said something that offended a couple vegans, and then someone who wasn't vegan responded to that post and said, oh, you know what? I had never thought about it that way. That makes sense. Great. And then I was able to have a conversation with someone else who wasn't vegan about that, but the vegans were so worried about me offending the not vegans with my analogy that they didn't stop to think that maybe the non-vegans, have their own mentality, have their own thought process, and they're able to critically think, and they respond well to multiple types of vegan activism. So to kind of tie that all together, everyone has their own lane, everyone's important. Make no assumptions.
Yes.
Yeah, except for the people who are, like we said, just flat out disrespecting different groups of people, different cultures, different things like that. That just goes along. That's just with anyone, vegan or not. Like, just be a good person.
So let's explain like what we perceive people to be. To be as like a nice vegan. Like when people mention nice vegan, what do you think they're thinking?
I feel like we're all nice vegans.
Yeah.
It depends on who you ask. It depends on who you ask.
If you ask people in our normal lives, they will probably tell you that we're nice vegans.
I feel like
or they would be like, is she vegan, really?
Yeah. So sometimes I'll come across someone, who uses the line like, oh yeah, like I know, but like, I'm from Texas. I like barbecue, blah, 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 blah. And then like the nice vegan in me will be like, oh yeah, I mean, like I totally get it. Like my family's from Argentina. I used to eat steak for breakfast. So mush. Probably a lot more barbecue than you did, and I've been doing it for 7.5 years, blah blah blah, and then they're kind of like, yeah, it's like, you know what I mean. So in that case, I feel like that's kind of like the nice vegan approach, where it's like, well, barbecue's bad, don't eat it. You know what it's causing. Of course, that's what I'm thinking internally, and of course, that's my opinion all the time. But you have to know how, unfortunately, you have to know how you approach people because people have different standpoints and not, and to be fair with anything, no one likes to be yelled at,
Yeah.
you know, no matter what it is.
I feel like I've never heard a vegan respond in that way though, to be like, barbecue's bad, don't you know?
some-
Like I've
well, some-
never, really?
I mean,
I
I
have,
haven't
but those
encountered
people
them.
aren't vegan anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's
interesting.
like I think when you first go vegan, you may have more of those conversations
Yeah.
just because you're super fired up.
Yeah.
But
No, it's
very
I
true.
really have not met many what people say to be like pushy vegans. Most of the vegans I meet are very nice and approachable
Yeah.
and respectful. And I think that comes from because just being vegan without saying a damn thing, you automatically get judged by people. You automatically get stupid comments. So I think that as vegans, we're like, I don't want to give that to somebody else. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make me feel good.
You
So I'm
know-
not going to.
You know what's funny? People who aren't vegan know a lot more pushy vegans than vegans
Yeah,
who
like
know
we're-
a lot of vegans.
Where are all these pushy vegans, or did you just make them up in your head because that's what you expect
Like, how
vegans
many
to be, and
vegans
you
do
low key
you
feel
know?
guilty about it?
How many vegans do you know? Because I feel like I know a ton
lot.
of vegans.
vegans.
All the vegans I know are nice,
Yeah,
and
they're all
open and
nice people.
accepting, and like are
I
not.
mean,
pushy.
there are some that aren't nice
Yeah.
or open or accepting.
Yeah,
but the ones I
But-
know,
This like pushy narrative, I think it's just a stereotype that's
Yeah.
been washed over
And it
vegans
has
as a whole.
nothing to do with veganism and
Yeah.
everything to do with the person.
Yeah.
and maybe those pushy vegans are in places that like aren't LA, and like maybe those are the people where like they are the only vegan they know, and
Yeah.
like maybe it upsets them, and you know their passion turns to anger and frustration, and so maybe they are a little pushy because they feel so alone. Like
Yeah.
I can't speak for people who
Right.
live in different cities. Like it's probably a different experience, you know. So I could definitely see that in other places, how that can, you know, become
Yeah.
pushy vegan
And it's
narrative.
like not our place to tell,
Yeah.
you know, Kelly in Nebraska to be less angry
Yeah,
about
no.
being vegan. Girl,
I'm starting to
Be
think
angry.
that the pushy vegan is anyone who just defends themselves for being vegan.
Literally.
I'm sensing a pattern here as I'm listening to us speak. I'm like,
called
do you defend
gaslighting.
yourself? Oh, you're pushy.
yeah.
All right.
Brendan said
There you
something
go.
great earlier. Brendan was like, animals are dying. Like, I don't have time to be nice. Like, animals are dying. Like, let's actually, like, think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every second.
It's hard to
nothing
be nice.
Yeah, it's hard to be nice.
When
So
you know the truth.
exactly, it's very hard to nice. So kudos to us for not only being compassionate and like choosing this lifestyle, but still choosing to be nice and like having a sense of humor and like, you know, being light. Some, you know,
To be nice, but it's okay to be angry.
yeah.
Yes.
It's frustrating. It
It's
hurts.
frustrating.
It hurts. It's upsetting, you know, especially knowing what we know and like, you know, walking around in this world with like people who, you know, don't see the same way that we do. It can be very frustrating. So
If you stand for anything, you're going to be frustrated and angry and disappointed.
Always.
If you stand for absolutely anything, that's just, you know.
what comes with it?
That blissful ignorance. I miss it.
Oh my god! Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm just like I know too much. Like,
Too much.
oh my god! Sometimes I just wish, like, well, not anymore so much,
Command
but
Z, Command Z, Command
I
Z.
like when I was like a younger vegan, like I was just like, dang, I wish I didn't know too much so I could just like be normal, because like you know it can feel so alone sometimes.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm happy with my decision, and you know I'm happy with my lifestyle, and more people are catching on more and more, and it just you know validates.
Yeah.
It's
Better. Knowledge is power, and there's something that I hear that sometimes makes me roll my eyes. But I feel like it's a good quote just in life in general. There are three kind of people in the world: the people who make things happen, the people who watch things happen, and the people who wonder what happened. So, you know, if you're angry and you're disappointed, you're at least in the first two, and you don't want to be in the last group who's wondering what happened. It's good to know.
I feel like that's a good note to end it on.
Yeah, let us know
Yes.
what you guys feel about, you know, angry vegans versus nice vegans. What do you think you are? Where do you fit in? And like your experiences.
Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe before you leave. Check out our Facebook group. It's in the description along with all of our social media as well. And we will see you next week for another
Thank
episode.
you guys so much for watching.
Bye. Love you.
Love you.